Thanks, everyone, for joining us to talk about the Summer Youth Internship Project Grant opportunity that is open now. Before we get started, I'm going to have a few people who are with me do some introductions. We're lucky enough to have, hopefully, the right person who could answer pretty much any question you might have in generality about this grant opportunity. So my name's Kathy Leggett. I'm the Future Ready Iowa Policy Advisor. I'm one of your main contact folks for this. And then Karen, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Karen Evans, and I am an administrative assistant assisting Kathy with your MOUs, W-9s, project reports, and those things. Any questions you have that go to Future Ready Iowa email account starts with me. So
great, thank you. Victor?
Hi, my name is Victor Kennedy. I'm the CFO for Iowa Workforce Development.
Thank you. And I'm not sure David is on. I know he's going to try and jump on. David, oh, there you are. Can you say hello?
Yeah, David Steen, attorney for Iowa Workforce Development. I'm here to help answer questions with regard to compliance.
Thank you. And then Brian.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Dennis. I am a program coordinator with Iowa Workforce Development. I apologize, I'm having some camera issues, but as you see, I'm listed on the grant as a contact, as well as I'm going to show you the ins and out with a short demonstration of the Iowa Grants website today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thanks to our communication folks who are always helpful, make sure that we can get through this in working fashion. So I am going to, some of you have probably experienced this before. I'm going to share some slides in just a moment and go through just general information about the grant opportunity that is open now. So we'll do that. Then we'll take some questions. And then, as Brian said, Brian is really our great resource on iowagrants.gov. So we added this part. He's actually going to take you into what you do to go into Iowa grants, what you how you move back and forth, just all of those general informational things that, especially if you haven't done this process before, you might find a little bit challenging. And so we put that kind of on the back end. That way, if you're somebody who's really versed in Iowa grants, then you can drop off if you want to, but certainly welcome anyone who wants to go through that with Brian to stay. He's a great resource, and it will make it seem much easier, I think, than if you don't. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. We would ask, I think, that if you have questions, put them in the chat, and then we can read through those as when we get to that break point. So this is always, some of you hopefully know this really well, but it's just very brief. Just a reminder, since this is a Future Ready Iowa grant, that Future Ready Iowa is a state initiative to have 70% of Iowa's workforce with education and training, participating in education and training beyond high school by 2025. And so we're all working toward that, and these projects have that as a goal too, to support that pathway for folks. So the intent here with the Summer Youth Internship Program is to provide high school youth or high school aged youth with opportunities to allow them to several things: explore and prepare for high demand careers, gain work experience, real world work experience, and develop those employability skills and attributes that are necessary to succeed in the workplace. So there's several, when you do the application, there's several pieces of that we like to see in the proposals that come forth. So our target audience, this is who we our priority is to serve in this program: high school youth who are at risk of not graduating, youth from low-income households, youth who are from communities underrepresented in the Iowa workforce, and who otherwise face barriers to success and upward mobility, or maybe even getting the opportunities to do a paid internship program and get some of those other skills and supports that we're talking about. So that is our target audience. When you do your application, you are going to be asked, what percent, how many folks from these groups are you targeting with the work that you're going to do? again, really want to provide great opportunities to folks who maybe wouldn't have access to that. For the use of funds for this grant, you can use the funds for whatever services and resources are needed to support the cost of the program participants. And here I have some examples. It definitely can pay for internship wages, for training resources, transportation, if it's needed, clothing, program, staff time, and some indirect costs. Now, I'm going to talk about that. I think I'll do that in a second. But I just want to mention when the grants are scored, it is really important. And we do look at how much would we classify as administrative expenses compared to what you're doing in the program and what you're asking for. And it will be, you'll get lower priority if your what I would say is administrative and staff time costs are really high compared to what you're providing for the participants. So we do this because we know it's important. You have to have time if you're going to coordinate a program like this. You have to have time to do that and to mentor students. And we totally understand that that is a big, it's a big time issue when you're trying to coordinate something like this. But I just want to put that caveat in because we have had grants in the past that, you know, a really high percentage of what they're asking for are those type of costs, and that is going to weigh against you. So, you know, look at what you need, definitely, but I just want to say don't overdo it on those administration or indirect costs. If you don't need indirect costs, then don't put them in there. Let's, you know, just fund what you need to do this. So one of the things we look for is that an organization that's willing to serve at least 5 youth for a minimum of 6 weeks. Definitely understand that if your goal is 5, you may not get 5 because the recruitment is part of the process, but we certainly want to have goals set toward that end, at least 5. And, you know, it was 10 in the past. We've adjusted it because we know that for some smaller employers or locations that's just too high of a number. And we still want to support this great opportunity. So that's what we're looking for with a grant and a program that's at least 6 weeks. How much money is available right now? It's $250,000. That is what we are appropriated from the state legislature for this grant. If you participated or are aware of what we did last year, we did fund quite a few more. We were able to fund several projects. That's because some additional money was made available. There is no guarantee of that, but I definitely want to encourage anyone to apply for this program if you have a good program to submit. So right now, $250,000 is what we have to give. And again, I have no guarantee that that's what it's going to be. That's what I know it's going to be. That's what we have. Maximum request. How much can you ask for your program? There is no maximum request. You need to figure out what's it going to cost to do your program and what do you need to put forth and have a successful project. And then when and how are funds made available? So typically for this, funds are provided on a reimbursement basis. And we prefer that if you bill us even every 2 weeks with receipts that we'll go through, with awardees later, but with receipts and documentation so that we can get that turned around and the money back to you. I have put a slash here upfront basis because we did have a lot of feedback from recipients in the past that we do and know we have some folks who this is just a real challenge financially to them to provide this upfront cost. And so we have the ability to be a little bit more flexible, but in general, I want to put out this is a reimbursement grant. That's the way it works. If this is going to be a challenge to your organization, then we can work with you and finance to kind of figure out how we can make that work. We don't want that to be a reason that somebody doesn't apply. So a little more flexibility in that. Who are the eligible applicants? Nonprofits, educational institutions, employers, community-based organizations, and other entities in good standing. We have had quite a variety of successful models put forth in this grant program. And so, for example, I just want to provide for people who maybe haven't been aware of it or participated before. We've had several employers who are the grantee themselves, the awardee. They recruit, they work with schools or community-based organizations. They recruit the the youth and put them through an orientation and provide education training and the work. So we've had really great models like that. We also have had models where educational institutions have put a application forth, and they are the kind of the core, the primary place for the students and recruiting. But what they do is partner with employers in their region or their community. And so they might provide some of the training, the employability skills training, some of the other things, the career exploration, and then the students go to work at one of the local employers. And we've also had some community-based organizations who do a similar model. So there's not one way to do this. And so creativity is great with what works in your region and your place to get these opportunities for youth. The performance period is a minimum of 6 weeks. I feel like we've had them anywhere from 6 weeks to 10 weeks for sure. We may have had a 12-week, I don't know, but I know we've had 10 weeks, which is great. So you are the one who has to determine how your program will work. Our estimated dates are to start May 1st and to end August 20th. So that's what you're looking at for the project period. Recruitment, definitely you would probably start earlier, at least working on recruitment. And we did hear, I just want people to know that we heard loud and clear that we need to get this grant opportunity out sooner so that the awardees can recruit the students. So it's not as soon as I had hoped, but it's a little sooner than last year, and we'll keep trying. So, but recruitment is definitely something that you need to do. So you want to have a plan for that. And I think that's something that you include in your application. Here are some definitions. These are all in the notice of funding that's available online, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just to give you an idea, a high demand job, when we're trying to get the experience that can lead to high demand jobs in Iowa, there's a resource there. And you do need to talk about how the work experiences you're providing are related to a high demand job in your application. So make that as clear as possible, because we want youth to know of these opportunities, especially in the areas where employers really need people in Iowa. So where do you apply? You apply at iowagrants.gov. And there is a link on our website. There should be. It's iowagrants.gov. You have to do your application through this website. It has to be an electronic application. We cannot accept a written emailed application to us. So if you think you're going to apply and haven't yet, I would highly encourage you to register at iowagrants.gov, and we'll cover that in just a little bit. You have to, if you've not been on there before, you need to do a registration. It gets approved. It doesn't take too long, but you definitely do not want to wait till the last minute to kind of figure this out. Application's due date is March 2nd of 2022. And I'm not sure what time, Karen, do you remember?
I believe we did 11:59 a.m. So right at noon.
Okay, so right at noon. And so just mark that down. That's again why you want to get into, don't wait till the last minute to get into Iowa Grants and try and figure that out. And because then we can help you along the way if you have questions, but if we run out of time, then that could be a big challenge. So what's available to help you through this application process? As I said before, applicants need to register at iowagrants.gov. On the Future Ready Iowa website, www.futurereadyiowa.gov, if you go to Summer Youth Internship, you click and you'll see on there links to all of the appendices and all of the notice information regarding this grant. So when you see the notice of funding or NOFO, that is going to have all the information in it in one document. Also, then we have it broken down in appendices, and these are also all in the notice, but then we broke them out separately. So you can have Appendix A, which is grant guidance. I highly recommend you review all of this information. I know it may seem like a lot of information, but maybe break it into Appendix A and then look at B and then C. But this is what's going to guide you as to what needs to go into your application and help you know what the scoring is going to look like for awarding the grants. So Appendix A, grant guidance, follows everything through the Iowa grants. So you could be in Iowa grants and you have Appendix A next to you or on another screen, and it's telling you exactly what you need to input into those boxes to answer the questions. Appendix B is just a general frequently asked question. We do ask that you review that because that may answer some questions that you have, and then you don't have to wait on one of us to answer a question via phone or email. And then Appendix C is the scoring rubric. So you can see how many points are awarded per section and the information that we're looking for in that section. So all of these are really valuable resources to you completing a successful application. This I just did quickly on here to show you kind of what it looks like. This isn't the current one, but this is what you're going to get when you click on those appendices. And utilize them. This one's going to, again, go through the information that you need to put in here. Here's a similar looking like a frequently asked question and the scoring rubric. So valuable resources that I just want to refer you to. And then there is Appendix D, you will see that, and that is, those are some directions for iowagrants.gov. If you're not familiar and you aren't able to hang on with Brian here in just a little bit, those give you some directions about at least how to log on and get started. And so in that, I just want to say that's kind of encapsulates it in general, the grant process and overview to remember and consider. Partnerships can be very valuable. It's not required. You will be asked about that, but we encourage people to think about partnerships. How can you come together to create a great program with your community-based organizations, employers, educational institutions, whatever is there to work in your area or region. As I said before, you are responsible for recruiting participants. So you need to have that as part of your plan, and some partnerships are key in that as well. Cost per participant will be a consideration. That kind of goes with the information where I talked about administrative costs as well. So cost per participant is a consideration. Review your administrative costs in relation to your participant support costs. And then reporting requirements are listed in the notice of funding. So if you're wanting to look at, okay, if I get a grant, what am I going to have to report? Those are all listed in the notice of funding. And we do provide templates and help guide you through that process. I do want to stop a second there though. Victor, I didn't, since we weren't actually talking grants awarded yet, I didn't put in a slide about receipts and stuff, but I wonder if you could just hop on and talk about, we do need to know, especially there, because many of these participants are getting paid by our grant funds. So we need to know their name, we need to know their address and those things. So can you just talk a little bit about that so people have an idea of what they need to be turning in if they get an award? Sure.
Yep. So we need receipts to have it be dated. We need an itemized description. So if you're buying like uniforms, we need to know, we need to see like what kind of uniforms. The dates are to ensure the cost was incurred during the grant period. So you're not requesting funds or reimbursement for items that were expenses incurred prior to the grant period. And for the stipends, we need to know the date they were distributed, the amount, and if you have like payroll stub or anything to substantiate that. And then for the participants, if you have an address as well as a name, we use that to just verify that, yes, you're actually paying people. Also, since this is funded with state appropriated dollars, the public wants to know where these funds are going. And so we like to provide maps. And when I mean a map, it's not at like a street level, but it's just a holistic map of the state of Iowa or certain regions in Iowa, just to show where our participants are at throughout the state. That way we can then show the public that these grants are equitable. We're distributing them across everywhere, not just in rural areas or not just in urban areas, but everyone in the state of Iowa is benefiting from this grant.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so we really are to questions. That's kind of the down and dirty of this summer youth internship grant. So I think we can see if there are any questions. Karen usually helps us with that.
At this time, we do not have any questions.
Okay, awesome. So
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
I actually do have one. I apologize.
Okay.
Can a municipality participate as an employer?
I think the answer is yes, but David, I guess I want to throw that to you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I would say a municipality could participate as an employer. We want to see the nature of the specific project and the outcomes proposed. but I cannot say on its face that a municipality would be ineligible to participate as an employer.
All right, thank you.
Next question, historically, how many projects are approved each year?
So it's what I can tell you is, let's see, we've done 3 rounds of this, 3 summers. The first summer was the very first ever grant, the summer youth internship. And just like any of our others, I think we didn't have a ton of applications. I believe we awarded 4 out of maybe 6 applicants. The second one we had, the second summer was actually the one really affected by COVID. So we opened an application process, I think, and these are just my best guess rate that I can remember. I think we probably had 15 applicants, and then had to go back to them and say, hey, can you even do this because of COVID? And many of them dropped out. So we awarded 3 that I think we had 3 projects the summer of COVID, just because they were the ones that could do it, and they scored well. Last year we funded 26 projects, and that's where we were able to get additional funds. And so I think we awarded actually about 1.6 million, knowing that because of the pandemic, youth had not been in school and had not had work opportunities or anything like that. So we wanted to do everything we could to fund the projects that scored well and presented as good opportunities. So that's the pass. So it really depends on how many applications we get, how much they ask for, and how much money is accessible. But again, I encourage you to apply. If you have a good project to share and go forward with, please apply. I don't think the application is hopefully too difficult that it would, you would kind of think, I don't want to do that. So.
Okay. Can the Meskwaki tribe apply for this grant?
I'm going to guess yes, but I'm going to ask David.
I know of no reason why the tribe couldn't apply as well. So in the same way with the municipality, it's not any kind of a disqualifier by a government agency or a different level of government. We simply need to see the project and determine what the outcomes will be.
Thanks.
We have a few people who have indicated they haven't been able to understand David's responses. We are having someone ask for clarification on the municipality, if that was okay.
Yes, that was okay. And so was the question about the Meskwaki tribe. Both, yes, absolutely apply. Again, we always would look at what the project, it's just like anything else, and make sure that it meets all the criteria. So no reason not to apply.
Okay, suppose a request is partially funded. Can the employer make up the difference?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Karen from Cedar Falls. Is there a suggested number of hours per week participants should work? Part-time, full-time? Also, what is an idea cost per participant?
Oh, boy. Okay. Part-time, full-time hours worked, that has been all across the board. And that's where we're going to look at really what does the project present. We've had part-time, we've had full-time, we've had, 8 hours a week. It really depends. And so that's really you creating the program that you think is going to best serve those outcomes that we're looking for. So that's completely up to you. Hours served, cost per participant. I don't have an average of what looks good. All I can share on that right now is, because it really varies. It varies, the cost per participant is going to vary if you're doing a 6-week program versus a 10-week program. If you're including, how much you're paying that participant. So I don't have a good amount to tell you. I would just say, kind of again, linked to those general administrative costs. If those are high, that's going to increase your cost per participant, and that's the categories are going to be looked at. If it's all participant support and some program coordination versus 15% indirect and 20,000 on somebody's wage, that's going to make a difference.
Okay, the next question, somebody confirming that 250,000 is the total amount of available funds. That is correct. As Kathy
That's
said,
correct.
that may change, but at this time, that's how much we have. Can our tribal apprenticeship program apply for this to fund youth participants?
Mm. I'm thinking. That one, maybe email me offline, because I don't know exactly how to answer that. I don't think there's a reason. I mean, you could certainly apply. What you have to do when you're applying is just answer all the questions and provide the information and meet the criteria that we're looking for to prioritize. But I would ask you to email me offline, and so I can talk with David and legal just to get a final answer on that.
Okay, does the applicant need to use specific criteria to identify high school youth who are at risk of not graduating?
We don't have, we ask, like I had those priorities of who our target audience is. You, as the applicant, you figure out how you're going to work your program. And then what you do as part of the application is tell us how many of our priority population you're targeting. What I do ask for in reporting right now is that you identify the number that you are serving that face barriers, and you give examples of the barriers they faced. That's as in-depth as it is as far as reporting. And again, that's whether you want to use something in particular or you want to work with an organization that supports youth that have challenges or whatever that's up to you.
Okay, are there any restrictions on hours worked for the internship program? Weekly hours, shifts, weekends, continuous schedule?
We don't have any restrictions that I'm aware of.
Just make sure they apply to, or they adhere to, federal labor standards practices, though. You guys don't want to
Yeah.
violate a federal law on that.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Do we need to provide documentation of low income household?
No.
Okay, we'll give it just another minute to see.
Okay.
We do have somebody asking if they can watch a recording or get emailed slides.
We'll post the slides, actually. And I think we do the recording too on the Future Ready Iowa website, I think. Molly, is
Okay,
that correct?
Yes, that will be on the Future Ready Iowa website. I'm actually going to send the link in the chat. It will be on the Summer Youth Intern Project page.
Yep.
Right there. So that will be, those will be up later this week.
Great, thanks.
Would staff prep time not used in direct contact with students be reimbursable? Also, if we track staff hours, is it reimbursed at their standard pay rate?
Do you want me to go first, and Victor, you can share if there's anything you think? I think it's really pretty wide open what you can submit as part of your budget. But again, and the rate, we don't determine any rates. You're putting in a budget what you think it's going to cost, and you're asking for a grant for this amount, X amount, which includes A, B, C, those things. So we don't have parameters on that. But I just, again, kind of back with the expenses, you just know that if those are really heavy on those type of expenses, then it's probably going to score a little bit lower, because we have to, with the state dollars, just as with anything, you want to make sure that you're really doing the best to support the participants that you're trying to get a great outcome for. And I understand that all of those things, trust me, I understand all that goes into it, but I just think you have to weigh, how much of that you're going to request in the grant. I don't know how to better answer that. Victor, do you have?
Yeah, so hypothetical, if you got a $10,000 grant and you said, you know, $1,000 is what we're going to use for admin, as long as we have whatever pay stub or whatever you determine that equals that $1,000, we're okay. But to dovetail on Kathy's point, if you applied for a $10,000 grant and said 5,000 is going to go towards, you know, indirect or admin costs, the purpose of the program isn't to supplant your business and, you know, do that. The purpose of the program is to get youth engaged. So those types of things will be factored or weighed against on the award, like, you know, what's determined for your award and the rubric score. Correct, Kathy?
Yep, correct.
Yep. So like we don't care how you come up with whatever you use for your indirect, you just need to support that expense when you submit it. But keep in mind, whatever you are requesting is going to weigh heavily on what is ultimately awarded and if you get the award.
Okay, somebody is asking is if a list of the high demands is located in the appendix.
Oh. So I don't think it's in the appendix, but I think that there is a link on the PowerPoint here to the high demand list that's like on Future Ready Iowa. But here's what I want to, I'm glad you asked that, because so high demand can be different in different areas as well. So these grants are not tied to an occupation that exists, say, on the last dollar scholarship high demand list or something like that. What I would do is encourage you to look again, and on the Future Ready Iowa website, if you go down, there are links to the high demand list that's for last dollar scholarship. And then there's some other high demand lists that you can see the information there. Many of you, you know, even like your county or your region may have on economic development websites, high demand lists. If you're an employer, you may be able to say this is high demand because we have constant openings. And, you know, we want to open a pathway for youth to get into this. So it doesn't have to be on a list, but there are many resources out there that you can use to get a handle on what maybe might be in that area. What I can say in general, healthcare, IT, trades, plumbing, electric, construction, engineering, and I know I'm missing some CDL, driving. There's just transport. There's a lot of high demand occupations right now. The other thing, and you'll find a little bit more information on the website, Future Ready Iowa website, is our goal is to make education training opportunities available, including work-based learning, which is internships, to Iowans related to high demand jobs. So we're looking for, I guess, probably prioritizing jobs that require some type of additional education and training beyond a high school diploma. That's not that you have to provide that, but that's our focus is, and it can, you know, it could be anything from an apprenticeship to a certificate to a diploma to, you know, anything. So it's just, we're just trying to say, let's get some additional skills to somebody beyond that high school diploma that will put them in a great position for a high demand occupation. So if you can't find something,
Kathy, it seems as though the internet has paused over at the office. One moment. Kathy, we still can't hear you right now. Kathy, you're on mute.
okay, sorry about that. I totally lost everybody. I don't know if everyone went away or whatever, but hey, I was going to say, Brian, are you ready?
We did still have just a couple more questions.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yep, you cut out for me, Kathy. So what is the process at the end of the internship, the follow-up, results, report to the state?
I think that it's within 30 days. You need to have like your receipts may be 15 days. 30 days, have a report, and we provide you a template that says, this is it, that will take you through the reporting process. So you'll share how many people, you'll share, you know, how many were with barriers, what were the outcomes, attendance. And again, what I would do is I would refer you to the notice of funding where it has what are those required measurements. They're listed in there because those you'll have to provide, but it's one report at the end, like within the last month that's required for the state.
That was the last question we had.
Okay. So now, Brian, are you ready?
I am. So I know we have a few slides in the slide deck that we can go back to the slide deck. And if you don't mind driving the slide deck for me, I'll talk
Nope, I
through.
can do that.
I will talk through just getting registered and then we'll do the demo.
Yep. Let me get there. Let me try and get there again. I think we're getting there. Okay, let me get us to the place where we need to be here.
So again, my name is Brian Dennis and I'm a workforce program coordinator. And the first few slides will show, and then I actually go into the site, but the first few slides will show us how to navigate it. So first off, this assumes if you've never gone into Iowa grants, the first thing before you can apply for the grant is that you need to be a registered user. So you simply go to iowagrants.gov and you click in, as you see on the landing screen there, new user sign in here. If you're already previously registered or once you get registered, you'll use the other link, and that's the link I'll show you in the demo. Next slide. From here, this is where you actually do your initial registration. Simply add in your first and last name, and then you click on the registration button. Next slide. And as you go to actually register, you would need to create your username. This is pretty similar to almost anything we have in our world now, whether it's paying bills, social media, you need to create a username, and that will default a lot of times to the @IowaAid domain name. So as you can see, the example here is Mickey Mantle. Then you see Mickey Mantle's email address and confirmed. And again, Mickey Mantle chose the Mickey Mantle @IowaID to access the system. And when I demo this as a user instead of the administrator, I will use an Iowa ID as well. Next slide, please. Once you create your username and complete your registration, what will happen next is that myself, along with some others, but I'm typically the person that handles these, I will get an email basically saying if it was Kathy, that Kathy Leggett is registering as a new user and needs to be approved to access the iowagrants.gov website. I will go in, double check your registration, and then I will approve you, and you will get an email confirming that. I will say rarely, but occasionally, the confirmation email goes to spam. I try and get through these every day. If it's been more than one business day, feel free to shoot me an email that's going, hey, Brian, did you get my registration? I try and clear these out by the end of the workday. You send something, if you register at 8 o'clock at night, obviously I won't get to it until the next day. But again, if it's been more than one business day, give me a shout and I have no problem going in and make sure that you're registered. Occasionally this does happen, and again, you will get an email about this. Occasionally, maybe you registered a long time ago and you go to register into the system and the system shows that you're already registered. I will then send an email to you disapproving your registration, but telling you that you're already registered, and if we need to help you locate those credentials, we can definitely assist you with that. Next slide, please.
Brian, I just wanted to say one thing too, or
Sure.
maybe get to this. Sorry if I jump ahead.
Go right ahead.
When you're registering, when you get to the place where you pick like the area, are you going to cover that feature with the Iowa? Okay,
I
then
am.
Okay, perfect. Because that's just.
Yep.
Okay.
So as you can see here, once the confirmation, you click the confirmation, you choose the security questions, and then you confirm password, and then you can actually go into your account with your username and finish the activation. Next slide. So this is where what Kathy was talking about. So as you go in to finish up your registration, you fill in your personal information, which has your name, required such as email confirming the address of yourself. If you represent an organization, you probably use the organizational address, phone number, but then very important at the very bottom where you see program area of interest, there'll be several options as they drop down. You really want to make sure that the program area of interest is Future Ready Iowa. This grant lives as a Future Ready Iowa opportunity, so it will just make it a lot easier for you to navigate the system if you put your program area of interest as Future Ready Iowa. Next slide, please. Again, you click to register, your registration is now fit in panel approved, and again, you get those emails that confirm that you are good to go. And as again, there's my contact info. I also put it in the chat as far as my email address. So again, if it has been longer than a day, maybe two at the most, but usually every business that I try and get these cleared out, feel free to drop me a note just saying, hey, I did my registration, haven't heard back. And I will tell you that that's the time when I get those emails, I've confirmed you and you just need to check your spam folder. But I'm more than happy to always double check. And again, you will not hurt my feelings at all. Next slide. Okay, so at this point, we're also going to check out of the slide deck. I'm actually going to drive you through a demonstration of the grant. So again, of how to find the grant and all the pieces of navigating Iowa grants. Again, if you feel comfortable enough navigating, you've done this before. If you want to jump off now, you definitely can. I'm not ushering anybody off the call, but if you feel that you don't need this part of the webinar, feel free. Have a great day. For those of you that would like to see a demo of the site, how to find different pieces, I'm going to demonstrate that now. So with that, Kathy, I'm going to share my screen. So if you can stop sharing yours, I will share mine. Wonderful. So just a quick check. Are folks seeing welcome to iowagrants.gov? That's what's showing on the screen. Wonderful. Okay. So again, just to recap with the slides we showed, if you are a new user, you've never registered, you would click here. And that's what all those slides were showing you, is how to go through the registration process as a new user. Once you are actually gone through the process, though, you are a returning user, whether you think so or not. So you click on returning user. And this is where I am going to log in with, again, my user credentials. And let's make sure I put in everything correctly. I did. So first things first, when you log in as a returning user, this will be what your landing page looks like. So when in doubt, if you get in any other part of the system and you want to go back home, this is where we go. So this is the home screen. If you click menu, these mean the same thing. So menu and home are the exact same landing page. Next up is how you actually find the grant. One of the quickest ways, the way you find the grant is to go to funding opportunities. And for funding opportunities, as you see, there are several grants that are listed here. Opportunities that may be, they may be closed, they may be active. So many times if you're just surfing through this way, it can be a little cumbersome to locate the grant. So one of the best ways to locate the grant is to simply do a keyword search. So Control F. And again, with the slide deck that that we've provided, there are also slides about how to do this. But the grant ID number for this grant is 444-500. So 444-500. And as you see here, there's the ID number. And this is the Future Ready Iowa 2002 Summer Youth Internship Program grant. So you could definitely play with the title of the grant, but if you know the ID, which again is 444-500, it will always take you directly to this, okay? Once you find the grant, next up you need to begin the application process. So here's the first thing that you do. By clicking on the name of the grant, it's going to take you to a very brief description of the grant. So earlier, the questions were about some of the real important dates when it comes to the grant. All of those are going to be included here. So as you can see here, again, the ID number of the grant, the name of the grant, And again, this falls on the Future Ready Iowa program area, but here for most people is going to be the really super important thing. The application deadline is March 2nd, and it is due at noon. So if you let this get to 12:01, you've actually missed the deadline. So please, please, please keep that in mind. There's my contact information and the project start and end dates. This is a brief version of the NOFO. It actually takes all the information from the Notice of Funding Opportunity through the eligibility process with applicants. Definitely you can have this, but here is really the important information regarding the grant. So earlier you heard Kathy mention the various appendices that are part of the grant. They are located at the bottom here. So again, here's the grant guidance, the frequently asked questions, the rubric. Here's an appendix about how to navigate the site if you need some additional information. There is the budget template form, and this last appendix is last attachment is the full notice of funding opportunity. So if you don't have it, this is a great thing. All of this is great information, but it would definitely behoove you to download and maybe even print out if you learn that way to have this handy. All right. Once you though click on the grant, how do you actually apply? The way you apply is really straightforward. Start a new application. If you have something previous, you could actually copy an existing one, but most folks are going to start a new application. You could start a new app. And the most important thing you have to do at this point is quite simply name your project. You can always change it if you want, but I am going to name my project a demo app for the summer youth program. As you see, it populates the name of the applicant and who you're attached to. Once you save this, you can then do the rest of the application. So until you do that first step, you can't see a lot of the other parts of the app. Once we've created our application, now this comes up. Go to application forms. These are the other forms and pieces of the application that you need to do. I won't go through all of them in detail, but I will show you the different parts of the forms. General information is what we just did. After starting the application, give them the name of the application. You see that it's marked, that's complete. It also tells the last time that I edited. From here, there's a variety of different links that take you to parts of the application. The project information, which is really important, that you make sure, and this is one of the things that I want to make sure from lessons learned with previous cohorts of the grant, is that when you fill out the legal organization name, it must match exactly to what the W-9 would be. Okay, so sometimes people, even just a change of one word, some spelling can cause some back-end problems. So just make sure that the legal organization name that you put in here matches the W-9 again exactly. There's different contact information you can put in about your budget, how much money that you're going to be requesting. Once you complete this particular part, if you hit return to the top, you can hit save. That will save the information. If you're not done with it, you can save as far as you've completed. I'm going to hit back just because I haven't put any information I want to save at this point. If we go to application forms again, there's a project description, which again, there's room for about 5 sentences of text to describe your project. The product design. This is where we get into all that demographic and a recruitment information that Kathy was describing. So there's room again to fill in each and every one of these sections. I think 1,500 characters is the standard there. And then the last thing I will show you, the minority impact statement, which is where last 2 things I'll show you. You list out, do you feel that what your project is going to have, either from what you can tell, a positive or negative impact on minority groups? You would answer no to both of these, but if you answer yes to either one, it does ask you to provide some additional information describing the impact, as well as a rationale, and then to list the groups that you feel will be impacted. You can select multiple groups. The way you select multiple groups is to click on the first group. So we're going to say this group will affect African-American women. So I could click on women, and then by holding the control key or the CTRL key, which is which is what most keyboards say, click on the additional group, and they are both highlighted in blue. If there's a third group, let's say it is person with a disability, you can also click off of that and come back in and start over in case you clicked on that didn't mean to. As you can see, there are several groups listed here that you could identify, and then you attest that it's honest to the best of your ability, best of your knowledge, and fill in your information. By the way, once you fill in any information in a particular section and you save it, you can always come in and change that. So these buttons that are grayed out because they're not, you cannot do them right now, but they will be accessible once you put in data to save. So you can either go in and edit something, you can delete something, or you can add additional information. I'm going to leave this again. Then the final piece I want to show you are the additional attachments. I do see a QA question. What about individual intersectional identities? Are you asking that when regarding the minority impact statement? I'm going to assume the answer, yes. Okay, so Melissa, what you would do if someone has an intersectional identity is, if those intersections do include any of the identities listed with our current minority impact statement, please go ahead and capture all of those. I do know that it's not an all-encompassing list. There is guidance that's really trying to target certain populations, which are the ones that are reflected in this section of the grant. So definitely anyone with any type of intersectional identities, please list out any that would apply to those individuals. You're very welcome. And the last piece before I open up for any additional questions is the application attachments. So in this final link, there are multiple attachments you need to make sure you're going through. So here's what I suggest individuals do. As you complete a particular section, there will be a prompt to mark a section as complete. When you do the general information, which is you naming the project, this defaults to being complete. For each one of these areas, when you feel it is complete, you can mark it as complete just to give yourself kind of a mental note every time you log in of how far in the application that you're done. When you get to the application attachments, though, there are multiple things to attach as part of your application. There are your letters of reference, and there's your budget spreadsheet. With the letters of reference, this is where we ask you to take however many letters of reference of letters of support that you have for your organization and make them one PDF file. So if you have, let's say, 3 letters of support, letters of reference for your project, you would need to scan them all in as a PDF, and then that final PDF is what you will upload here. If you click on, it's very simple. I'm assuming most folks have attached a document before, but you would choose a file from your computer, you would attach it, it will show here that you've attached it, and then you will write out a brief description of what it is, which can honestly just be as simple as letters of support or letters of reference. The budget section works very similar. You click on here, you will upload the budget spreadsheet, which I'm going to go back and show you where that is in case anyone is curious about where to find that. Again, you just name it or describe it, which could just be, again, as simple as project budget, and then you would have those pieces done. So your application is ready to go once you have completed all of these sections. So each of these particular forms, and then the 2 attachments in the attachment section, which again is the letters of reference and the budget. Once everything is done, so that's why I say, if I was you, you may want to mark it as complete once you're sure you're done. That is where you would hit, number 1, you can hit preview to look at everything that you've actually put in the system, and then finally hit submit in order to submit the application. All right. Any questions about this before I go and show where the budget is?
I don't have a question, but I do just want to make sure and clarify that we do require that you use our budget form that
Yes,
Brian is going
absolutely.
to show you. So please don't attach your own budget. Use the budget form that's provided. Also make sure that your budget amount and the amount requested on your application match, just so that there's no misunderstanding of what amount you are requesting.
So I'm going to show you there's two places you can find the budget. What is two ways to get to the place where you find the budget. So I'm going to hit menu. And again, when you hit menu, this will take you back to the home or the landing screen. So I'm going to hit menu. And once you hit menu, you can actually find the grant a couple different ways. Number one, if you go back into funding opportunities, like you when you're first applying for the grant, again, hitting Control F brings up the keyword search. It still is in there because I used it before. I'm going to type it in there just to start over. 444 500. 500. That again brings you to the grant. And if you click in here, the name of the grant, and go all the way to the bottom, you will find the various attachments and appendices. And Appendix E is the grant budget form. This is the form that you need to do to submit your budget. Again, don't create your own spreadsheet, use this form. That is required. The other way in which you can find it, again, going back to the home screen by clicking menu, is once you've named your project and you've actually began a grant, you'll have different grants listed in the My Applications tab. So this might be a little faster for you once you've started a project. You click on My Applications. As you can see here, I test a lot of different grants. I have a lot of different applications, all of which have like test in their name. But we're going to use the one that we just created. So the demo app for the youth internship program. So it has a project title, and then it has the funding opportunity. So two things that you can do here. If you actually want to go into your application, you're working on your application today. You get about halfway done. You get done whatever you get done. You're going to set it aside and come back tomorrow. The way you will go back into it is simply to go to My Applications, click on the name of your project title. That takes you to the application that you're currently working on. If you want to then get to that budget or any of those other appendices, the way you would get to it is go a little to the right and go to funding opportunities. It's taking you to the same place I took you to previously. You click on this. Again, a brief description of the NOFO, but all the way down at the bottom is the appendices or the attachments. I'm sorry, the system, for whatever reason, when you click it through this way, it does not do the highlighting and underlining and making things bold and blue. But each one of these is an actual PDF, is a form that you can actually open and download to your computer. So perfect example is by hovering over Appendix E, you see the arrow over here where there's nothing to click on versus over here is now a finger. I can again click on the budget form and pull the budget form up. Any questions about this?
Brian, we do have somebody asked if we are a prior user of Iowa grants, do we need to indicate the program area of interest in some way now?
If you're a previous, I'm not sure about that one, to tell you the truth. If you're a previous registrar, it would be a good idea to, when you go into it, actually, yes. When you go into your actual registration, in fact, I will show you versus talking you through it. That is a very good question. If you go to menu and you go to my profile, I do believe, yes. So if you're previously a registrant in Iowa grants and you want to apply for this one, because this lives under Future Ready Iowa, on your landing page, if you go to my profile, there is your information. If you hit the edit screen, down here, you can change your program area of interest. So you see mine is listed as WIOA because that's primarily the ones that I work in. But if you hit the drop down box, it brings up several, and they are in alphabetical order. So you see Future Ready Iowa. So again, whatever your program area of interest is, if you want to change it for this particular grant, the way you will get to it again would be menu, my profile. This is also where you can change any information. So your email has changed, the address has changed, your phone number's changed, what have you. If you click on edit, You can update all that information. And for this particular question, you would go to program area of interest and you would change it from whatever it currently is to, again, Future Ready Iowa, which is going to be about midway through these different areas. I can quit passing it. There it is, Future Ready Iowa. Other questions? All right, wonderful.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you. So I think, well, it's perfect on time, 1 o'clock. I just want to thank everyone again for participating. Reach out if you have questions, and we hope to see applications. So thanks and have a great rest of your day.